Well, hi everyone. Welcome to 2026. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. And welcome to January's Aging Well. We're so glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday evening. I always have to thank our team, Tom Roth with our CTSI, Courtney Hayes with our Aging Department, our Pepper Center on Aging, and Audrey Belfero with our Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. We are a small and mighty team. And you know what? It's a passion project for all of us to do this for you. So, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We have got an amazing program for you tonight. So, really, without further ado, we're going to just jump right in. There is a new place in Winston, and it's called Taste Buds Kitchen. And the franchise owner is a lovely woman named Connie Schobel. And we are going to let Connie give us kind of a taste of what it's like to participate at Taste Buds Kitchen. And I will promise you this, what she has told me is that even though it is conducive to groups to come in together, if you want to come in just by yourself, you will join a group. And she said, even if you don't know a soul when you get there, you leave as friends. So, Connie, take us through it.
Well, hello. Welcome to Taste Buds Kitchen, and thank you, Deb, for coming with the Aging Well series. What we're going to share with you today is a part of our Tasty Thai class. We are going to be making chicken pineapple sauté skewers. We are also going to be making summer veggie rolls. And in that, we are a peanut-free kitchen, so we are going to be making a faux peanut dipping sauce for the summer rolls. What will happen when you come in is you have nothing to do but bring yourself. We'll have everything set up, all the tools you need. We also do all the cleaning for you. One of the first trays that we do is our pineapple chicken skewers, so that way we can get them in the oven. We pre-measure everything. We have our brown sugar and seasonings. It's turmeric and cumin. We have our oyster sauce and fish sauce. We have a sambal chili paste. We have our tamari soy sauce and our sesame oil, and we also generally use fresh ginger and garlic. We have our microplane. I'll show you how to use that. And we use fresh lemon. So what we do is we instruct people on how to use our stuff. It's fairly simple. Pretty much all this stuff goes into the bowl for the marinade, and then it will go over to boil for our dipping sauce later after we brush it on our skewers. So all you got to do is, first I'm just going to give this a little mix to mix that up. It's brown sugar with the seasonings. And then we're going to add all of our little pre-measured sauces into it and keep stirring. Get all the good stuff out of that. And then the soy sauce. And you want to give that a good stir. We also have our juicer. And we're going to get the fresh juice of the one lime in there. Or actually a half a lime, but we'll, like I said, have that pre-measured for you. And then I'll set that over there. And then if you haven't used a microplane this side up, you can use any zester at home. If you're recreating this, you don't have to use just the microplane. But you want to just take your fresh garlic and ginger and rub them along the sides to get that beautiful flavor in there. And you want to get as much as you can without getting your fingers in there. Nobody wants a finger in it. When you're done, you just give it a nice little tap. If it doesn't come out, you can always use your spoon to get the rest of it out. And then we're going to stir that up a little bit more. And to make the skewers is easy, we generally pre-soak the skewers for you. That way they don't burn when they bake. Makes it a lot more efficient without all that headache. So... And these are easy. You can do them any way you prefer. You can do pineapple chicken, chicken pineapple. You can do you can make a satay out of any vegetables or protein and fruits or veggies that you prefer. We like to use the pineapple and chicken. We think it's a great flavor. And then the recipe that we have will make you 12 for I'm only going to make a couple here just to show you how easy it is. With the dipping sauce, I have already put in pineapple juice and coconut milk. And we will thicken it with a little bit of cornstarch and add the rest of our marinade. Some people worry, but don't be worried because you boil it out throughout the class, so it isn't going to hurt anything. I think I can go this way. Gotta wash in between. Washing hands is important in between chicken. And then what you'll want to do is just give them a nice brush. You don't want to use it all, otherwise you won't have enough for your delicious dipping sauce for your summer rolls afterwards. We will have the recipes, but like I said, you can modify them depending on what you prefer in them. If you do decide to come to one of our classes, we will have everything pre-measured, and hopefully you like what's on there, but it does say what we are making that day. We also have just added, we have a once a month class that is afternoons. So that way those of you or anybody that either works nights or would like to come in the afternoon and join us, we can do that. We have everything from Caregiver and Me, 2 years old, all the way up through cooking classes for the kids when they're out of school. They're 3-hour camps. I'm just going to throw this in the oven. They only take about 10 to 12 minutes to bake in our convection oven. And then once we make our skewers, we're going to add, we're already starting to boil here, we're going to add the rest of our marinade into our boiling coconut milk as well as the pineapple juice. And then we're going to add a little bit of cornstarch to give it a little thickness. And the best part is, now while that's cooking, we'll move on to our summer rolls. All right. Once again, with the summer rolls, we have items that we will usually put out for you, but you can choose whatever ones you prefer. So we have here, we have our carrot, we have cucumber, red cabbage, red pepper, avocado, and then fresh cilantro and basil. So obviously most people know, peel a carrot. We do like to do it down, away from our fingers. Just a little safer that way. And then your choice on whether or not you like to peel the cucumber. You can do it with or without if you want a little extra crunch in it. Nice thing about here at Taste Buds Kitchen too is when you are cooking, you just put your stuff to the side and we come around and clean it all up for you. So what we like to do is a pinch grip with our knife. You hold your thumb on one side, finger on the other, wrap it around. This way you make nice smooth movements with your knife rather than trying to chop with your finger. We also use a bear claw. We keep our knuckles above our fingertips because nobody wants a fingertip in there. And anything round like this, you want to make a slice and put it down. The flat side is always your safest side. So then we're going to make a few more slices. That we call this cutting them into planks. And what we're going to do now is julienne them so that they fit in the summer roll, the rice paper wrappers better. So I'm just going to stack them up as high, as comfortable as you feel. And then we'll put them back over there. Flip that over. And then same thing with the carrot. You're going to want to make a flat side. I'm going to actually cut that in half. And we'll do planks again, just like we did with our cucumber. And then they cut nicely into julienne strips after that. Yeah, for those that don't know, Taste Buds Kitchen is a franchise. It started about 18 years ago, and they are coast to coast right now. We are the first here in the southeast. There will be some more openings soon, though. And then with the pepper, we like to hold it really big and cut it in half first. You can do a couple different ways. You can either just reach in and pull the seeds out, or if you don't like to, go ahead and cut it in half again, lay it flat, and then you can just kind of slice out the seeds that way. When you're julienning your pepper, you do want to use the inside. You get a lot more traction. The skin is a little bit thicker, and this has more traction on the inside. So we're just going to slice. And don't worry if it gets too close, just leave it be. You don't have to do it perfectly. With the red cabbage, it's wonderful because it's kind of already in its layers. I'm on the flat side. We're just going to give it a couple slices here. And then we'll put that back on our tray. Next we have our avocado. How we like to do our avocado here is hold it in your hand, set your knife into it, and slide down to the core. And then you can roll it around. If you don't want to do that, you can keep your fingers above and twirl it on the cutting board. That way it'll get the same effect. And then you give it a twist and it pulls right apart. A cool way to get the core out is smack it and give it a little twist. Don't chase it and don't grab the knife. Just use something to take it off with. We've chased a few too. It's all fun. And then we take a handy dandy spoon and just scoop it out. And then same thing with everything else. We're going to flip it to the flat side and then just do a few nice slices down it. And then I'm going to put that on my tray for when I go to assemble my summer roll. Lastly, we have our fresh herbs. And I hear my pan, so I'm going to give that a quick stir. Make sure we're thickening and marrying very well over here. Okay. I don't have as many, just because I'm doing a few samples, but usually you'll want to pick off the large stems. The smaller stems aren't too bad. We're going to leave them intact this time because they look very beautiful inside the rolls. So you'll just want to take off the big stems and put those aside. And then the same thing with your cilantro. The smaller stems don't really matter so much. You can keep those, but the big fibrous stems, they don't taste as well and they don't look as pretty. All right. And now we're going to assemble. All right, so the next step is we're going to move on to forming our summer rolls. What we have here is our rice papers. They feel kind of plasticky. If there's like a small tear like this, it's okay, but if it rips in the middle or rips really far down, you don't want to use it. You'll want a big bowl of warm water. It doesn't have to be hot, but warm enough to get it started melting a little bit. Most of these rice papers have a tapioca in them, whereas traditionally they were just rice and water and formed. And you'll want to dip it in kind of like a steering wheel till you can fold it like a paper towel and pull it back apart. That side feels a little thick. You don't want it too wet or it'll stick to itself before you can roll it. And then you'll just want to work right on your table. Fold it out. And this is the fun part. I like to be colorful, and you can do whatever way you prefer. Or any veggies as well. Some people actually even do proteins in here. You can do shrimp, chickens, almost anything that you'd like. And then there's that. You don't want to go all the way to the end, but you want to give it a nice fill. And then with your leaves, if you put them out like so, they will look beautiful when we roll. Get a nice piece of basil in there as well. I love my basil. And then you kind of fold it like a burrito. you bring the one side over this way and the other side over this way. It does get a little sticky, but that's okay. That's what we want. That way it sticks to itself when you roll it. And then you just give it a nice roll, kind of like a burrito. Keep it tucked down. And voila, then you have your beautiful, colorful summer rolls. Yes, you can get them even at Food Lion, or yeah, Food Lion has them. They're in the international section. Same thing with some of the sauces and stuff that we have. Like I mentioned, the tamari soy sauce and the rice vinegar. All that is pretty much available at any of the regular grocery stores. You don't really have to go to a specialty store to get them. And our chicken is done already, which is fantastic. The convection oven is a wonderful tool. Sorry, this is going to beep for a minute now. And let me check our sauce. And then we've got our delicious pineapple skewers. Oh, and our summer rolls. And a delicious non-peanut dipping sauce. Of course, I didn't bring tongs, so we're just going to do this. And there is part of our tasty Thai menu, all complete in just a few minutes. Oh, yes, please come visit us. We have a lot of other classes as well. Some of the more fun ones is the fresh handmade pasta. We have the nice machines. You make a rustic tomato sauce. We have a homemade gnocchi class, and actually the tasty Thai and our Mexican fiesta and our Argentinian steakhouse, our all gluten-free by design. We can make alterations for private events, or you can just leave some ingredients out if there's things that you can or can't eat. And if you don't know, we are at 676 Hanes Mall Boulevard in the Pavilion Shopping Center. One of our wonderful mottos is Learn, Laugh, Cook. It's about community and getting together, creating something and enjoying it with others, either friends or new friends. And I thank you again, Deb, for coming to visit us in the Living Well series. I hope you all enjoyed.
So y'all know I'm not much of a cook, but here's the deal. If any of you are game and want to take a class, I would love to take a class with any or all of you who are interested. So just shoot me an email at the address where you get your reminders from me. Seriously, if you want to do it, if it's one other person or if it's 20, I would love to do it with y'all. So anyway, we're going to move on to our Living Well section, and we have got Sandy Sieber, who is going to be giving us a demonstration of the 8 types of Tai Chi that she teaches and practices. And it is wonderful for your strength and for a sense of calmness. And I think for everything that's going on these days, finding a sense of calmness is a good thing. So Sandy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Deb. It's great to be here at Aging Well. Well, my name is Sandy, and thank you so much for coming to do Tai Chi with me today. I hope you enjoy it. Today we're going to learn a practice called the 8 brocades. But before we begin, I'd just like to tell you a few little things that I think will help you enjoy it more. One is the way in which Tai Chi is a little bit different from exercises you may be used to. which focus on repetitions and speed. In Tai Chi, we're focusing on what's called internal energy, and I will call that Qi, but it is simply a word for your life energy. So in Tai Chi, we're just trying to feel our life energy, make it flow, and be healthy. So let's get ready to begin. So just one thing you might want to be aware of is how you're standing. And just notice that my feet are not close together, but I'm putting them underneath my shoulders, and that gives me a very grounded, comfortable stance. So we're going to begin with movement number 1. Movement number 1 benefits the acupuncture meridian called the triple warmer. The triple warmer is very comparable to what we think of as our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. It is the meridian that reacts to stress. When it's all clogged up, we feel like fight or flight, and when it's peaceful and stretched out and relaxed, then we feel good. So let's begin. You're going to put your hands over the top of your head and palms down. Hold your hands over the crown of your head. We're just going to stretch up and come back down. Now turn your palms facing upwards. Same thing, stretch and come down. And just follow me. Now we're going to bring the hands down, and we're going to clear a little space for the next movement. The next movement is for your spleen and your stomach. And in Chinese medicine, these have not only to do with digestion, but they have to do with groundedness and power and strength. And so what we're doing in this movement is activating our spleen and stomach meridians. So put one hand, as though you were bouncing a ball, against the ground, and then the opposite hand, and let the fingers point upwards. So one hand is pointing down, the other one is going up. We're going to balance our energies. So one down, one up, and then change. And again, hand up, one hand down, and change. Follow me. Okay, so we're going to clear the space for the next movement. The organs we're going to be working with now are the lungs, the liver, and the heart. This movement is called draw the bow. So you're going to bring your hands up to your heart, put the backs of your hands together, form some loose fists. So we're going to get ready to shoot the arrow. So take a nice breath in and shoot. Come back to the center. Load up again. Shoot. And just follow me. And now we're going to clear the space for the next movement. So movement number 4 is for our spine, our neck, our back, our head. And I love the name of this one too. It's called The Owl Looks Back. So we begin the movement with our palms facing towards our sides, just in a relaxed stance, just a normal stance. As I turn my head, my palms open. I come back to the center. And then as I turn the other direction, my palms also open. So just follow me. And now we're going to clear the space for our next movement, number 5. So our movement number 5 is for the heart. And you know, not just in our culture, but in many cultures, we associate the heart with fire. We get fired up, and our heart gets excited, and we feel passionate about things. And thanks to that, things happen in the world. We go out in the world and we do things coming from our heart. But one of the problems is that we can get over much fire. And for example, the California wildfires, they're actually dangerous. So when that happens in your body and you start feeling too much fire in your heart, it's not really good for your health. So this movement is very sweet. We're taking our heart and we're bringing it down to the earth. The earth is grounding, the earth is cool, the earth is calming. So as you do this movement with me, think of taking your heart and bringing it down to rest on the calm of the earth. So we begin. I face my left knee, and I bring my heart down towards my knee, down, across to the other knee, and then come back up. Now I face the other knee. Bring my heart down to that knee. Let it rest on the earth and come back up. Now follow me. Great. So let's clear the space for the next move. Another really, really important organ in your body is your kidneys. So let's just massage our kidneys right now. Just find your kidneys back there. We're going to help the chi, the life energy, move in them. So the kidneys are often associated with energy in Chinese medicine. For example, when we're young, we have lots and lots of energy, and then when we get older, we have less energy, and the water in our body decreases. And so one of the things that we're doing to decrease the symptoms of aging is to actually stimulate the flow of the kidney meridian. So we're going to do that by tracing the meridians. The kidney and the bladder meridians are partners. So we'll just begin. We massage the kidneys, and then we trace down the backs of our legs, down to your feet, then come up the insides of your legs. And when we get to the very top, this is the end of the kidney meridian. Find your collarbones, and there's a little sinking in place, and that is the top of your kidney meridian. And just tapping on it can give you more energy. So let's do that again. So massage your kidneys. Bring the energy down the bladder meridians, under the foot, up the kidney meridian, and tap. And we'll do this one more time. So I hope you're feeling a little more energized as you finish this practice. Now we're going to clear the space for the 7th movement. The 7th movement focuses on the liver. And in Chinese medicine, the liver is all about moving forward, getting things done, getting unstuck. And so the practice for the liver very much mirrors this image. So we're going to begin by letting your hands form into loose fists here at your side. And as you're standing here with your feet loose fists, I'd like for you to gaze in front of you and just find a point for your eyes to rest on. And when I say rest on, because I'm not talking about a narrow focused vision on a point. I'm talking about soft eyes where you see the point but also what's around it. So the practice is sending energy to that point. So we extend our fist to connect with that point, come back, extend the other, we're sending the energy to that point, come back, and just follow me. And we clear the space for our last movement. The last movement is my favorite one. It's called settling down. And probably if you think back into your childhood at some point in time, your mom or your dad or maybe your teacher noticed that you were running around frantically and they said, settle down. So that's the nature of this movement. So we begin by bending forward from the hips and opening the back. So just feel your back open. And then bring your hips forward, but keep your chin down. We open the front. Then you come back into the center, and this is the really good part. You will hop, and everything lets go. So we'll do that a couple more times. Just follow along. So thank you so very much for doing Tai Chi with me. I hope you'll join me again.
Well, I hope everyone is now nice and relaxed and ready to hear from our speaker. We've got Sara Hrivnak. She is one of our physicians at the Advocate Health, Wake Forest Baptist Weight Management Clinic. So we are going to hear from her about what's the scoop with all this talk about protein. And like the promo said, is it real or is it hype? So Dr. Hrivnak, we're going to let you tell us what the down low is on this.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Let me pull up and share my screen. Okay. Deb, can you see this? Everything looks okay, hopefully.
It looks good. We just need it to be full screen. There we go.
There we go. Perfect. All right, everyone. So thank you. I'm excited to be here today. My name is Sara Hrivnak. Like Deb said, I'm a physician working at the Weight Management Center. As the title demonstrates, my job consists of helping patients meet their weight and metabolic health goals. Through that, I spent a lot of time talking about lifestyle changes like nutrition and exercise. And one of the most common topics anybody asks me is about protein. In this presentation, I'll discuss what protein is, why it's important, what are the intake recommendations, and a few other things. So, before I go into depth about protein, I just wanted to acknowledge the turn of the new year, which always gets people thinking about goals, things they want to do or accomplish. I chose this picture because it showcases some of the most common goals people tend to pick, like setting a reading goal or learning a new language. On the lower left side, we've got what looks like a yoga pose called Warrior Two, representing the most common New Year's resolution to exercise. On the right side, we have a guy who represents everyone who sets a New Year's resolution related to food, whether that is to eat better, change eating habits, or just learn how to cook at home. Why do we set New Year's resolutions? Possibly because we want to improve our lives in some small, tangible way, and setting a resolution can be a step towards that. So maybe you set a food-related goal because you've seen things online, or talked to a friend recently that changing what you eat will make you healthier. You might have even come across suggestions that you increase your protein intake. So protein is having a moment. You've likely seen it everywhere. Online, articles on your favorite news site, information from friends, influencers, and it's probably overtaken your grocery store. If you haven't noticed, protein is being added to literally everything. No longer do we just have protein shakes, protein powders, and protein bars. Now you can buy protein chips, protein bagels, protein Starbucks lattes, and even protein Pop-Tarts. But is any of this good for you? Is it important to have protein in everything? Should you join in on this protein craze that has shaped the collective consciousness of 2025? These are all great questions. I'm going to get a little technical here, so please bear with me for a moment. Protein is a macronutrient composed of amino acids linked by peptide bonds that serve as the major structural and functional component of the human body. It's essential for tissue growth, repair, and several metabolic processes. Proteins function as enzymes, hormones, antibodies, and transport molecules, while also providing your body with some energy. Humans require 9 essential amino acids that cannot be synthesized by the body, so we have to get it from our diet. Animal protein sources like meat, eggs, and dairy contain all 9 essential amino acids, while some plant proteins are deficient in one or more and require a combination to meet nutritional needs. You may have heard of these called complete protein versus incomplete protein. One is not superior to the other, and it is not difficult for vegans and vegetarians to consume what they need from plants to get all their necessary amino acids. Now, you might be wondering, what should my protein intake be? The answer is dependent on your goals. In general, aim for the standard recommended daily intake of 0.8 grams a kilogram a day. For the 150-pound person, that equals to around 54 grams of protein a day. If you are in active weight loss, which a lot of my patients are, or you're trying to build muscle like many athletes do, a higher target is often chosen, typically between 1.2 to 1.6 grams a kilogram a day. For the 150-pound person, that equates to around 95 to 126 grams per day. When you are in active weight loss, you will lose both muscle and adipose tissue, your fat tissue. Increasing your protein requirements along with strength training allow you to retain as much muscle as possible with active weight loss. Additionally, if you are on a weight loss drug, like one of the GLP injections, you should be cognizant of your protein intake, and it will likely have a higher goal because of the nature of the medicines and its weight loss capabilities. This also applies to anyone on the injections for diabetes. They work the same way, whether you're taking it for weight loss or diabetes. However, I would recommend speaking to your doctor or a dietitian, because it's always good to let them know you personally, look at your overall medical conditions, health, and determine what should be your specific numbers based on your specific needs. These are just blanket recommendations. What about older adults? Older adults have some unique circumstances they acquire with age, and one of those is called sarcopenia, known as age-related muscle loss. Sarcopenia can impact the quality of your life by increasing the risk of frailty and disability. It can be harder to build muscle or even maintain it after middle age. To combat sarcopenia, you need to build and maintain muscle by eating protein and engaging in strength training. The key here is the strength training, though. Eating more protein all day long won't make up for the lack of resistance exercise. Think of protein and strength training as kind of your daily muscle maintenance tool. As for protein intake recommendations, are they different for older adults? The answer is complicated. as many things are. In general, it is still recommended to continue aiming for the 0.8 grams a kilogram a day. However, there are some experts and some bodies out there that recommend higher protein intake at 1 to 1.2 grams a kilogram a day. Again, it's best to speak with your doctor and a dietitian to determine what is best for you and your needs, because each of you is unique. All right, next, just like with anything, there are risks involved with too much or too little protein. Too much protein is generally considered eating more than 2 grams a kilogram a day. Doing this increases your risk of kidney stones and can aggravate pre-existing kidney conditions like chronic kidney disease. Some CKD patients are even put on a lower protein diet depending on what stage of the disease they are in. Additionally, something I want to point out for everyone watching is that there is excellent data to show that a diet high in red meat and processed meats increases your risk of colon cancer and heart disease. Red meat includes beef, pork, veal, lamb, mutton, and goat. Processed meats are meats that have been treated through smoking, curing, salting, or fermentation. Processed meats have been labeled and cataloged as a known carcinogen, while red meat is classified as a probable carcinogen by the World Health Organization. Red meat, and the reason is red meat contains heme iron, which has been shown to increase the risk of DNA damage and cancer. Processed meats also can contain nitrates and nitrites, which can damage DNA and cells and lead to increased cancer risk. Does this mean you can't eat red meat? No, of course you can. It's up to you and the risks you want to take. Weigh it against genetics, things like that. But what we do know is that if you do eat red meat, it's better done in moderation to as little as possible. Currently, we don't know if any amount of red meat or processed meat can be eaten without increasing your risk of cancer. There are studies being done at this time on this, but right now there's no known safe level. Instead, I would focus on other sources for your protein, whether that be lean animal meat like chicken, turkey, fish, or plant protein. I did include several articles at the end of my presentation for anyone who wants more information on this, including links to the American Cancer Society article on the risks of red meat, processed meat, and cancer risk. Too little protein is typically considered eating less than 0.4 to 0.5 grams a kilogram a day. Common manifestations of low protein intake include muscle atrophy and functional impairment. Protein malnutrition typically affects organs with high protein turnover, resulting in some bone marrow loss, impaired formation of blood cells, and dysfunction of major organ systems. Generally, most Americans are not deficient in protein, but it does happen, especially in patients that might be on weight loss medications and aren't eating enough, or older adults who, again, just aren't eating enough or eating a varied diet. So you might ask, what are good protein sources? On this slide, I've compiled a quick glance at good protein sources split by category. First, we have the meat category, which is what people typically picture when they think of consuming protein. In general, choose lean meat options like chicken or turkey and fish for those excellent omega-3s. Like I said before, limit red and processed meat consumption due to that increased risk of colon cancer and heart disease. Dairy is best in their low-fat varieties, and the heavy hitters in terms of protein are cottage cheese, yogurt, eggs, and cow, goat, or sheep's milk. A small aside here, but if any of you prefer non-dairy milk options, soy milk tends to have the highest protein content, but always check the label. What about plants? I split the plant protein into complete and incomplete for your convenience. As you can see, there is a lot of options that contain all the 9 amino acids one needs to make a complete protein, including the easily found soy options like tofu and edamame, and the grains quinoa and amaranth. Even the incomplete proteins listed usually only lack one of the 9 amino acids. So they're still excellent sources of protein and just require you to diversify what you eat throughout the day and get protein from multiple sources, which honestly, everyone should be doing that anyways. What about protein supplements? I'm not going to dwell too long on this, but I will give a quick overview. Protein supplements can be divided into 2 distinct categories. We have the animal sourced protein powders, typically split into whey, which is a fast digesting milk protein that's commonly seen and used for its muscle building properties. It comes in 3 forms: concentrate, isolate, and hydrolyzed. This tends to be what people will take before going to the gym or after. It's kind of a quick, fast acting option. Casein is a family of proteins found in milk, and it provides sustained amino acid release due to slower digestion, which makes it useful for prolonged periods without food intake, and it often has greater satiety effects than whey. Plant-sourced options tend to promote satiety very well, given the natural content of fiber that is not present in the whey or casein, and it's a good option for anyone on dairy-free diets. Pea protein is an incomplete protein, but provides long-lasting fullness and is usually well tolerated like whey. This is one of the most common plant protein options out there. Soy protein is a complete protein, so with a good digestibility score. This is another common option available that I see pretty often in the grocery stores. These supplements can be found in powder form or incorporated into foods, commonly as protein shakes or bars. But like I said earlier, now we can find protein added to all sorts of foods. Just take a trip to the grocery store and you'll be astounded at what options there are that they're adding protein to, which I wouldn't always agree is necessary, but we'll talk about it. Now, I did have a request to discuss the recent 2025 Consumer Reports testing and subsequent article that found high levels of lead in some protein supplements. They tested 27 products and 2/3 of them had higher levels than is recommended in a single serving that is safe to have in a day. Not good. I did include the 2 articles here for reference. Obviously, this is concerning. Unfortunately, protein powders are considered a supplement, and therefore they have very little oversight in terms of safety standards. Unlike prescription drugs, the FDA doesn't review, approve, or test supplements before they are sold. Federal regulations generally don't require supplement makers to prove their products are safe, and there are no federal limits at this time for the amount of heavy metals these products can contain. It would be wonderful if this was to change, but that's the current state of how things are. So, what should you do? You could not use supplements and get all your protein from your diet, or you could use supplements sparingly. But if using supplements is needed or desired, my recommendation is to do some homework and check the company's website to see if they publish testing results. Some of them do get third-party testing and will put it on their websites showing each batch and the contamination, or if there is any. I personally would recommend doing this for any supplement you take. Just like with anything you put in your body, there is a modicum of risk that you need to weigh the pros and cons for. Supplementing protein can be very attractive to people because of the ease with which it can be incorporated into your day. What I tell my patients is that if you can get enough protein in your day from whole foods, do it that way. I always prefer nutrients to come from less processed whole foods, but sometimes you can't. So supplementing might be necessary. These protein fortified options can be highly processed or high in sugar. So reading the label and determining its true nutritional value is important. Like I said earlier, there are protein Pop-Tarts out there. I guarantee if you take a look at them, the sugar content's going to be high, and we know they're highly processed. Is that worth your time? I would say no. Recently, I have seen some companies claiming their product is high protein, which can be very misleading. Often the product is really only moderate protein, but higher in calories. So they've added more protein, but by doing so, made the calorie intake much, much higher. I've had many patients think they're making a positive change by switching to a high protein labeled product, when in fact they've added just more calories and sabotaged their goals. If someone is trying to avoid highly processed foods but needs more protein and has to supplement, making your own protein shake or smoothie is a nice way to balance this. You buy the protein powder, ideally one that is not high in lead, and then add in your own vegetables, cottage cheese or yogurt, and fruit into the mix, and you've got a pretty decent snack that you made from your own ingredients. That means you know pretty much where everything came from and what is in there and how much sugar is in there, because you're doing it from ingredients you bought from the store. Protein fortified foods also come with a hefty price tag, and that can be a barrier for many. So sometimes doing it yourself makes it a little bit cheaper because protein powder itself can be expensive. At the end of the day, I encourage you not to be swindled by protein being added to everything under the sun. And instead, read the labels and determine if it's actually a beneficial bit of food to ingest or if it's just filled with highly processed sugars with barely any nutritional value. Additionally, check to see if the company you're buying from publishes their testing data for heavy metals. Okay. So the next several slides have examples of higher protein meals using plant protein only. I chose to include this here to give some inspiration for anyone wondering how they could get good protein in a meal without using animal meat. Some people don't want to eat meat with every meal. It's pretty easy to get enough protein from plants. For example, I personally make and enjoy the tofu scramble, grain bowls, oatmeal with chia seeds or chia pudding. The nice thing about a lot of these is that you can add whatever toppings you want to the base, which diversifies your eating and gives your gut so many delicious things to experience. Same thing does apply if you do intake dairy. You can do this to yogurt or cottage cheese as your base and then add toppings. For this dinner slide here, I do love the bean-based tacos or bowls, like lentil pasta and the tofu curry. And then for the snacks, hummus is always a good option. And same with the edamame, just check the salt content if you're trying to avoid salt because you have high blood pressure or some heart issues. And then the other thing I'll mention here about the trail mix. Trail mix can be great. Think of it as a snack, and always, always read the portion size, because it is so easy to overeat trail mixes, nuts, all of them. They're high calorie, have some good things in them, but you need to be careful about how much you're consuming. It's so easy to just sit there and keep eating, and before you know it, you've eaten a cup of nuts and it's 800 calories. So just a little thing to be aware of. Okay. The key things I want you to take away from this presentation are simple. Protein intake should be based on your goals, not fads. In general, the general population and those in a weight maintenance phase would have the normal recommended intake of 0.8 grams a kilogram a day. Active weight loss, or people actively trying to build muscle, a higher intake can be considered, usually 1.2 to 1.6 grams a kilogram a day. For older adults, you can consider a higher intake, 1 to 1.2 grams a kilogram a day, especially if at risk of sarcopenia. And lastly, I urge you to aim for a well-balanced diet of protein, fiber, carbohydrates, and fats to give you all the nutrition you need. And remember, fiber is a carbohydrate, so that counts in for your carbohydrates for the day. Thank you all. I have included several resources here, a few from Harvard Health, talking about protein needs, especially for older adults, and then how much is too much. The Very Well Health has a nice protein like sample menus. And then the Cleveland Clinic link and the Cancer Society link all have information related to the cancer risk connected to red meat and processed meats. All right, everyone. Thank you so much.
And, this is when we invite y'all to ask your questions. We've already gotten a couple, and one is, so can I have all my protein at one sitting or in one meal? Or is it better to spread it out? Does it matter?
That's a great question. Currently, data is pointing towards spreading out your protein intake between your meals with an average of 15 to 30 grams of protein per meal or snack. So if it's a snack, closer to on the lower side. If it's a meal, maybe on the higher side. And the reason is this optimizes your muscle protein synthesis and metabolic function. So in the weight loss world at my clinic, we're always encouraging people to actually eat several times throughout the day because this improves metabolism and then the protein synthesis as well. This approach is especially important for older adults because the anabolic response to dietary protein can decline with age. So making evenly distributed protein intake a promising strategy to help maintain your muscle mass and your function as you age. But at the end of the day, I tell everybody, just do what you can, give yourself grace, because life is busy and work can get in the way of any perfect plan.
All right, we have another question. What about soy? I try to not eat soy. I feel like it will mess with hormones.
So, and I'm not an expert on this, but from the data that I've seen, soy got vilified many years ago, especially in relation to breast cancer risk. There's many good studies now that have come out showing that that risk is not there as much. Well, actually, really at all. There were some people that said maybe you should get soy not from America because it's genetically modified. I can't recommend one way or the other. There's not enough good data on that yet, but something to always pay attention to. But from the bigger studies that are being done, soy appears to really not increase your risk and mess with your hormones like we used to think it did.
So this was a question actually I had because it's, for me, not being a medical professional, the grams and the kilograms are kind of confusing. So you had given like an average weight of 150.
Mhm.
All right, so let's just use that average again. What would that be in ounces? Like how much of the protein should we look at if we're trying to do it throughout the day
Yeah.
using that 150 average?
So, I mean, let's say your goal was 54 grams. I mean, that's nearly 2 ounces when you do the switch. But what I tell everybody is like for my patients at work, get a food scale because everything you buy, like, if you're buying chicken, it's going to tell you, okay, it's this many ounces for this much protein. So most of my patients are counting their protein and their calories. And so to get very specific, they'll just go and weigh it on a scale and then go off and cook it, or they'll weigh afterwards. And I'm not going to get into the weeds of this, and a dietitian would be able to tell you better than me. But sometimes what they're telling you is like, you need 4 ounces of this chicken to get this much protein. A lot of times that is either cooked or not cooked. So see if there's any of those words in there, because that changes. The cooking process can change that. But again, the dietitian is a bit more expert on that than I am. So if you have any more very specific questions, you could see a dietitian about that.
Okay. Is it better? We got another one here. Is it better to try to get my protein from plant-based sources or from animal-based sources?
Good question. The short answer would be no. There is no difference between the two. Well, there is a slight difference in terms of the amino acid comprising. So like I mentioned earlier, the animal protein is complete always, whatever source you get it from. But plant protein, some is complete, some is not. So the soy products are complete. Quinoa is complete. But like black beans are typically lacking a little bit of leucine, which is one of the amino acids. So with vegans and vegetarians, you just have to make sure you're getting a diverse palate, right? So you're eating protein from different plant sources. If you're an omnivore, get it from plants and animals. You'll be covered, right? It's not difficult as long as you're eating protein throughout the day from different places. You'll get all of that you need. There are some advantages, and I don't know if anyone's asking this. This is one of their questions, but there are some advantages to animal protein in terms of muscle protein synthesis. But they've been doing some good studies out there that show, plant proteins are associated with a superior long-term health outcomes, particularly like we talked about for that cardiovascular disease and cancer risk. So instead of asking which one is better, maybe look at what are you focusing on. If you're an elite athlete and you're trying to build muscle, the animal proteins might be a little bit better in terms of bulking. But is that something you want to continue to, ingest every single day? If that comes with possibly the risk of, like we had talked about, the red meat and the processed meat for cancer. Or do you want more disease prevention? Plant protein consumption is linked to, favorable changes in blood pressure, cholesterol, insulin sensitivity. So anybody with pre-diabetes or diabetes, doing a little bit more plant proteins would be good. And then this is pretty amazing. I read this study recently. It was a large meta-analysis of 30 randomized controlled trials that found animal protein resulted in only a small benefit over plant protein for muscle mass. But the comparison did not include soy protein, which we know is a complete protein. They used incomplete protein. And of note, in adults over 60 years, there was no difference in the muscle mass building between animal and plant protein. And there was no difference in the muscle strength or physical performance outcomes. So to me, that tells me, again, the long answer, no. There's a little bit of benefits here or there for either one, but you should be okay doing either one. Again, you just have to be careful about the red meat and the processed meats.
Well, you touched on another question. When you say complete and incomplete, what does that mean?
Yeah,
and I know you touched on it, but
yeah.
I would like to know more too.
Yeah, I'll say it again. So you need 9 amino acids that our body can't make. So when we look at protein, complete protein is protein that contains all 9. So that's where the animal meat, the dairy, the fish, they all contain all 9 amino acids. They're considered complete. Plant proteins, some are complete and some are not. I listed them, but the ones off the top of my head that are complete, again, all the soy products, some grains like quinoa, amaranth, I believe nutritional yeast was there listed as well, but some like popular things like chickpeas, legumes, they are incomplete. Now, the caveat for most of these incomplete proteins, they still contain like 8 of them. So you're only missing maybe 1 or 2 each time you consume this. And that's why, again, if you are going to be mostly getting your protein from plants, you just make sure you're eating a variety throughout the day so you can get all your amino acids. And I mean, that's just a life thing. We say this in general for eating. Don't eat the same thing all the time. Now, that doesn't mean, again, you can't have your oatmeal every morning. Maybe have your oatmeal and change up the toppings that you're putting on it. Mm-hmm. So you give yourself and your body and your gut, your microbiome, something new to introduce and chew on.
So what do you think of things like the Impossible Meat, Boca burgers, plant substitutes?
Yeah, good question. And to be honest, the data is still kind of, there is some studies coming out that there was a mycoprotein, so made from mushrooms, that they kind of turned into a Whataburger, right? Like they turned it into a patty. And I was reading the study recently that it seemed to give pretty good outcomes in terms of muscle building and things like that, and giving you what you need. There is the other flip side of things of, well, how processed is this and what do we consider processed? Again, ultra processed in terms of meat, like I mentioned, was like anything that's like fermented, salted, smoked, cured, those kinds of things. Some processing we consider okay. Peeling an orange, that's technically processing the orange, but that's considered a low processing. It's still considered okay. So the long answer to that is we're going to have to see what the data shows us when people continue to do more studies. I buy some vegetarian plant sausages for the flavors. I've made my own using tofu, and you can get ones made out of like potatoes and peas and things. And is that terrible? I don't think it's as terrible as eating the red meat that we know is linked, at this point. 20 years from now, will it come out that that stuff is not as good? Maybe. I can't say one way or the other. So do your best to make your best informed decisions, but we'll have new things coming out each year, and then we can adjust as we need to.
So stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
And then I think our last question for the night, because we have gone over a little bit, but these are such great questions. Should your protein be more in the morning? And I think you said we need to spread it out.
Yeah, I would recommend spreading it out. But again, I work with patients that their biggest meal is their breakfast. That's fine with me. Okay, you have most of your protein then. Still try to spread out as you can. One of the reasons is, like I said, for the metabolic, processes and the building over time of your muscles. Also, it helps you stay full throughout the day. And so if you're full, then you're not going to reach for a snack that someone has brought into work, or that's sitting in the kitchen that you didn't plan on eating that cookie or whatever. So that's just another way to kind of help you stay on your goals.
Well, thank you so very much for shedding some light on this, because again, I hear it all the time, protein, protein, protein. I had never heard that it was on a Pop Tart. So that was kind of a revelation to me. But I want to thank you for sharing this with us. And I appreciate all of you being a part of January's Aging Well. I hope you can make plans now to join us in February on the 10th, and we will explore another wonderful topic. And remember, February is Heart Month. So I'm thinking the topic could be heart health. But anyway, please stay tuned, and we will see you next month. And everybody live well so we can all age well.